It says we're live. Well, hello, good evening, good day, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are, all the best. It's Biz to Biz with Joy. This is a special edition. And tonight I have a guest for you that you are going to absolutely want to sit down and take notes because we're going to be talking about what most of us more than ever are interested in, our health. It's going to take a different path, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. It's always good to see you here. But tonight, it's all about health. And before I specify exactly what it's all about, what I want you to do is just get comfortable. Get a glass of wine, a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, whatever your preference might be. Relax, get a notepad, and take notes because our guest tonight, I met her at one of our new platforms. We're going to talk about it a little bit. I won't give you the name. I like secrets and mystery. But we're going to talk about what she is all about. Samantha WYLAND is all about, she is a certified integrative nutrition health coach. Now, that's a long title, but the bottom line is she's interested in what all of us are interested in, taking care of ourselves as best we can. So we're going to listen to her share her journey of what it's all about. So let me say to you, Samantha, hello and welcome, and thank you for being here. I'm so excited to hear everything about you and what you're doing. Welcome.
Hi, Joy. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be on stage with you. This is phenomenal. So yes, I am a certified integrative nutrition health coach, and that's a really long title, which really just means that, I am not a dietitian. I am not a, certified nutritionist.
Yes,
I went to the school for the actual school in New York City,
yes.
integrative nutrition health coach school, because I really like their message about how they're talking about things that are both on and off the plate. So it's not always just about diet, it's about lifestyle, it's about family life, it's about your profession, it's about your career, it's about money. It's kind of like this whole circle of life, they call it, where, we tie all of that in. So it's not like I just say to people like, hey, you need to cut out carbs. It's way bigger than that. It's a really broad topic, and it's almost more like being a therapist a little bit.
I like that. I tell you why. Because health today, Samantha, more than ever before, it's mainly, I would say, the number one thing on everybody's plate. Because we're in this crazy pandemic. Most people thought it would be over by now, but it looks like it's going to be going on for quite some while. And people are more interested in taking care of themselves than ever before. So tell us, how did you get started with this? We love stories. We like hearing how one came to do what they're doing and tell us why you love it so much. That will come. But tell us how you got started. What made
Sure.
you get on this path to health and nutrition?
Sure, absolutely. I like to joke that this is my third career, and I finally know what I want to be when I grow up
I love that.
at the young age of 25. We'll go with
Yes,
that.
I love it. I love it.
So yeah, I had a very interesting childhood, to say the least, and I had a lot of digestive issues from the time I was very young. I had a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, all things that lead to chronic digestive disorders. I had my first endoscopy when I was 16, and I went to the doctor, and I'm sitting on the table and talking to him, and he looks at me and he says, okay, well, I'm gonna, look in your stomach. And he sprays my throat with this stuff, tells me to bite on this tube, and then he does the endoscopy right there, which is actually where they put a camera down your stomach, take a
Yes.
picture, take a biopsy, and I saw the whole thing like on a screen right in front of me in, this tiny little doctor's office. You can imagine like sitting on the white paper.
That
And
had to
then,
be a little scary.
you
Woo.
know what, it was my first experience. So, you don't know what you don't know. So,
That's true. That's true.
then I had some other issues with stress, and I had to go back and have another one in my early 20s. I think I was 22 or 23. I was working in a very stressful work environment, and I had a really bad flare up. So went to a different gastroenterologist, I believe, and he was like, okay, so here's a prescription. You need to go have blood work and an EKG, and then you can schedule your endoscopy in the hospital. They'll put you under, you have to take a day off work. And I'm like, wait, what? I thought I just like sat on the table and they like did the thing, which now obviously they realize is somewhat dangerous.
You
So
know, Samantha, I have to tell you that I'm finding this interesting because I'm sure I am never alone. And if I am, it doesn't bother me because I'm never alone. But I say this to ask you, we hear this term all the time, chronic digestive disorders. And you also gave me a name here, and I know we're going to get there, IBS, which I never heard of. And yet you said to me that you did a lot of research and you did a lot of everything to get to understand what was going on with you. So share with us a little bit about this chronic disorder because digestive disorders are more prevalent than most of us know. So what is it? What causes it? What brings it about?
sure. So IBS, this is part of the what doctors aren't telling you. IBS is actually considered a functional disorder, and I call it AKA BS because
Ooh,
it's a term that doctors use when you do not actually have a clinical diagnosis. You have to have all the tests. You don't if you don't have Crohn's, if you don't have, um, an actual diagnosis that requires treatment. I have plenty of friends that have Crohn's. I have plenty of friends that have Candida. Like there are diagnosable digestive disorders, and
yes,
they need to be treated a certain way.
right.
But IBS is sort of a term, and it's funny because I was having some digestive issues that were pretty severe, and I was pretty certain that I was going to get, a diagnosis of colon cancer or something really terrible. And
Ooh,
I went to a new gastroenterologist, and my symptoms started to get worse and worse. I was constantly sick. I was losing so much weight. I was just really, for 2 years, I practically just couldn't even get out of bed. I was
ooh.
calling out of work. I was canceling social engagements. I was a witch of a wife and mother. And
Oh my
I
God.
got to the point where, I just said, I got to figure out what this is. So
So
started to
that's
do
when
my
you
own.
started to do all of your research and you did a lot of probing and digging and you
That,
went to the back to the beginning of time to get some answers for yourself because you weren't getting them from your doctors. That's
that
what
is,
I'm hearing.
that
Am
is,
I
that is
correct?
correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it
So
wasn't
that
that he
being the
wasn't
case,
trying.
yes, I can imagine. I can well imagine how I still want to know what does IBS mean? What is the terminology, the scientific, the meaning for that? What does IBS mean? Because
So
that's new to me and I'm a student. I'm always learning.
of course. So the way my doctor explained it to me after I had made all this, after I had done my research and, let him know the root cause of my chronic digestive
Yes.
disorders. And he was like, wow, yeah, this is exactly what's wrong with you. And he started treating the root cause, and then everything started to get better. I was in his office about a year later, and we were laughing and joking about how much progress I had made in such a short time. And he was like, I'd love to see your smile because normally when you come in here, you're crying and, no hair, no makeup, and I said, did you know that my symptoms were caused by like my emotional and hormonal and psychological issues? And he was like, yeah. And I'm like, well, why didn't you just tell me that in the first place? It would have saved us so much time and money.
Oh, God.
And his reaction was, well, most patients probably wouldn't come back if I told them that because they would be offended. So that's why the diagnosis of IBS. And I'm
Uh,
like, well, if you had told me that, I would have saved a heck of a lot of time and money.
okay, I understand that. I hear and I understand it. What? I heard everything that you said. I feel that I've got it. But I always look beyond me to the other person who might not, or the one maybe who did, but maybe there's a question mark. What, and I think it's varied and multiple, but what was or what is, I know it's different for everyone, the root causes of chronic digestive disorder? How can you explain and speak to the layman about that?
It can be a variety of things.
Yes,
It can be stress, absolutely. It can be diet, eating processed food, sugar, all the obvious things that we know, too much alcohol, too much caffeine. Those are all triggers. But, everybody with IBS has a different story. I used to tell my doctor that, like, hey, yesterday I drank a glass of water and I felt like like I felt like I was dying. But 4 days ago, I ate a gigantic burrito and I had a margarita and I was fine. So it's kind of, it's very hard to get to the root cause. And that's where it's really important to work with someone to kind of bridge that gap.
Yes. And that's why, with all of your time and love and effort and energy that you put into the research that you did to get some answers for yourself, that's why now you're working as a health coach, because you want to help a lot of people who might be dealing with this issue, because it's still an issue that's, because I know IBS, what it stands for, and we're using that, but it's irritable bowel syndrome. So most people don't even want to mention those words. So there's that, well, whatever. But how are you supporting people now to get more clarity so that they can understand more what this might be and what causes could be, maybe?
Absolutely. I'm trying to bring the conversation to the table.
Yes.
I've had a lot of trouble with, social media like Facebook. No one wants to post on Facebook about their bathroom issues. So, I did this blog post and it's kind of a joke. There's three things that nobody wants to talk about, money, sex, and SHIT.
Yes.
So I'm trying to use Clubhouse, which is a great forum to get people talking, because, once you say what you have to say, it's gone. It's not like you post something on the internet and it's there forever.
Yes. I have to tell you, I'm chuckling in love here, Samantha, because I don't curse and I don't like foul language, potty language, and all of that. I don't think there's a need for it, but I spell SHIT all the time when I want to say something. So when you did that, that really hit me. But when it comes to digestive disorders, I think that is a difficult subject for most people because it does involve what we just mentioned and spelled out. So what are you doing in the interim to get more people invested in learning more about how they can get information that will benefit them in the long run? Because everything is a time factor. This I know.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually have a launch coming up
Good.
on March 31st at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. My good
Mhm.
friend, Tom Martin, who ironically I met on Clubhouse,
Great.
he is a former producer for the Today Show, and
Good.
he's a former medical producer for NBC. And it's a crazy story how we met, because we were in the Clubhouse room together. He's actually launching his online course that's for authors, and he was asking some questions about setting up Facebook groups. And I quick yelled out, "I've set up more Facebook groups than I'm willing to admit in public, so I'm
Yeah,
happy to help you." So
that's great.
yeah, so I helped him set up his private Facebook group, and he's gonna help launch my 3-month program. So
Don't you love that? Don't you love the collaboration and the first meet and connection? And there is a collaboration kind of bond there that you make. It's a beautiful factor when it happens. Tell us, what are the people who are going to attend this event? What are they going to get? I know you can't give us everything, but give us some nuggets about what they are going to be offered and what's going to be delivered to them that will benefit them, if this is an issue that they have or they know of someone that they can share it with.
Sure. Yeah. So the workshop is called Ditch Digestive Distress to
Yes.
Live Your Best Life.
Love
And
that
we're
time.
going to, talk about different ways that you can. I actually have I have a question. I have like a free downloadable document where it's like a digestive assessment. So
Mhm.
if people aren't sure if their digestive disorders are, impacting their life, in certain ways. And so I'll be sharing that. I'll be sharing some tummy friendly recipes and answering questions from the audience, obviously talking about things that what your doctors aren't telling you, telling
Yes.
them about my story. So there's a lot of good stuff that's going to be going on there.
I love what you just said, Samantha. I think there's a connection here in many ways because you said the tummy recipes. And I always say the tummy rather than the belly. I say the tummy and the tush and things like that. My friend the other day said to me the three T's: the tummy, the tush, and the thighs. These are the areas that women have the most trouble and concerns about. So I get that. Have you designed and created these recipes yourself, or you have over the years? How did you come about these wonderful tummy? recipes?
Well, because I work more in integrative nutrition where I talk about what's on and off the plate, I don't hand my clients like a cookbook and say, here, eat this, because everyone is very different and the internet is a real thing. So if a particular client of mine is trying to cut down on gluten, they can certainly Google gluten-free recipes and find things that intrigue them, because, I don't know what you like to eat. So, but I have found I have 4 or 5 recipes that I've collected over time that I feel are helpful in curbing some of my clients' cravings.
Yes,
And when you're
craving.
able, it helps to kind of crowd out some of that bad stuff that's irritating them, and by
Yes.
satisfying them with some good stuff. So, and they're done for you, PDF format, like print, like ready
Ah.
to go. Yeah. So
Great, 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 great. I have a friend. Remind me after the fact because I forget too many things. I have a friend. I want you, and you must meet her. Her name is Veronica. That's all I'll give you now. But just write that down because I want you to meet her because I know that you two will have an alignment that you can do collaborations together because she's in the same arena that you are with health and nutrition and all of that. But the other thing that I wanted to say and ask you, it's hard. I know it's varied, but what are some of the major foods that irritate the system, the digestive system, if one has IBS? What would maybe 3 or 4 of those foods be? Now, would it be for everyone or would it still be contingent upon the person?
I think to some degree it is very bio-individual, and everyone I know with IBS, IBS-C, IBS-D, those are potty words I won't use.
Okay,
You can
okay.
Google them.
Yes.
So we all have our own like different triggers, but in the first 4 to 5 weeks of my program, I try and get my clients to eliminate sugar, processed foods, gluten, dairy, and eggs. Those seem to be some of the top 5 triggers that we
Okay.
work to eliminate.
I have to tell you, I have to share this with you. I never bring me into personal, but I have a friend that I'm working with now, and I'm into health and nutrition because this, and I want to speak a little bit about COVID and how that has impacted what you're going to be doing and how that will react to what you're doing in your workshop that you're giving. But I have cut out sugar, and I have to tell you what a difference it's made in how I feel and everything. And the others that you mentioned, the processed foods, the milk, the dairy, and the eggs, possibly down the road, but just cutting out sugar has made a tremendous impact for me. So I can imagine what it would do for someone who would really have IBS symptoms with using or eating sugar. Now, how long have you been able to live this type of lifestyle without any irritation since you started and got your certification as a health nutrition?
I would say that I like to say that I am 99% better, if that helps.
Yes,
I'm not saying I don't have flare-ups, because I do, and I my health coach brain tries to health coach my way
sure.
out of it, and then sometimes I do have medications that I need to reach for, and I'm definitely a believer in the balance of science and nature. Medication exists for a reason as long as you find the right one for you and you understand why you're taking it and when you need it. So, yeah, I do have my flare-ups, but I know how to
Well,
stop
now,
them like pretty quick.
I hear that. I hear, and what I like that you're saying, because I want to speak to this before I take a real quick break. When you say you have flare ups, what I want you to be thinking about, I'm going to come back to it and remind me to come back to it. Do you know now when you have those flare ups exactly what triggered it? And it's something that maybe was invisible, that you couldn't see, couldn't smell, couldn't boom, boom. And so you didn't know until after the fact. Think about that. I'm going to take a quick little break and I'll be back with you in just a quick second. So hold tight. Don't go
You
anywhere.
got it.
Yes, indeed. IBS, I love the name. Irritable bowel syndrome. Oh my, nobody wants to talk about that. One of my favorite people in the whole wide world, I mentioned this to Samantha before we started, was Judy Garland. This was one of the issues that she dealt with, among many other things. So if this is something that you're not familiar with, and yet you know of someone who might be, then this is a workshop that you're going to want to attend on, when is it? March the 31st. I think you'll find it very interesting because Samantha knows her stuff and she spent a lot of time, energy, money, love, and made new friends to get to a better understanding of what it's all about so that she can share it with you. And you know that I love bringing you men and women who share what they've learned because they're eagles. They have gathered all the information. have the wisdom, and then they want to share it with you. Now, even though this is not a usual day that I do my regular shows on Tuesday and Wednesday nights, I'm doing a special for Samantha because I applaud, I celebrate, and I commend the work that she's doing. Because I know outside of the name that I mentioned to you, who I didn't know at all, just admired her, Judy Garland, I know of several people who have had and have IBS. So I'm familiar with it and I know how irritable it can be. So if there's anything at all that you can make the time to get to the event, please do. And even though this is not my usual day, if you write in the comments BIZ, BIZ, you'll get my new booklet, which is full of good nuggets and tips for you about how to interview and be a guest and all the things that you can do with the video after the fact. So that said, let's go back and find out more from Samantha about what the triggers might be for when you have the flare-ups. And sometimes you can have something. I know from my limited knowing, the people who can't eat peanuts, they eat something, it didn't have peanuts in the label, but maybe where they manufactured it, there was something and then that set them off. So what do you know at this point in time sets you off with the flare-up when you eat something? Do you always know what it was? Or do you sometimes have to probe and do your research to discover what was it that got me irritable this time?
Yeah, well, I mean, when I did all my research and I found the root cause of my chronic digestive disorders, which they called IBS, I discovered that it was hormonal for sure, and also stress related. So we used to call it the trifecta. Two really stressful situations and a hormone change in my life, boom, would set me. That was it. I was done. It didn't matter what I ate. I could drink nothing but water, and I would still be sick. And it's still the same today. And especially during COVID, that is like COVID is like kind of like this overhanging stress,
Yeah.
and then let's put another personal family stress on top of that, and then you put a hormone boost in there, and and I just know, and I just try to
Well,
wait.
Well, you know what? That's good, and I hear what you said. I understand what you said. Yet I have a question because hormonal covers a lot of territory. So, what hormonal are we talking about specifically when it's a
Specific
hormonal something that causes a flare up? What would we be talking about? Which hormonal boom 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 would we be talking about?
Sure. For anyone, men and women, it can be any sort of
Women.
hormonal shift, men or women. It can be any kind of hormonal change. It can be an imbalance of estrogen, testosterone, any of those imbalances. For me in particular, I started perimenopause, and that is not something that you can easily diagnose. But when we put all the pieces together, and then I started, writing things down and eliminating any other possible factor, that's really what it came down to.
Fascinating. Fascinating. I think the work that you're doing is to be commended. And that's why I want you to meet this lovely young lady because she is very much involved with and she just became a certified integrative nutrition health coach herself. So I think there's probably some camaraderie there. And you never know what you can do together because we're no longer a small community. We're global, we're international. What I wanted to ask you now, and for us to kind of end on, give us some of the foods that are good for you that will cause no issues. I know it's varied. I know it's contingent upon the individual and all of that, but a broad-based list of foods that are safe, so to speak. Can you do that, or is that still too varied?
No, I think I can do that. I mean, obviously, food is very bio-individual. So,
Yes,
I mean,
absolutely.
back when I was very sick, I really couldn't do a lot of, salads and broccoli and things like that because it was just
Ooh,
too rough on my stomach. But in general, you want to have a good balance of, your prebiotic fiber, which is found in, lots of vegetables. You want to introduce fermented foods into your diet because that helps to balance your gut microbiome, and that's a whole nother lecture in and of itself. Taking a good quality probiotic to balance your gut microbiome is incredibly important. And I'm a big believer in like the superfoods. If I'm going to make a salad, it's going to be with kale, not with iceberg lettuce. Because I like to get the most bang for my buck when I'm eating. So, the superfoods like kale, beets, sweet potato. I could go on and on. There's so many.
Yeah, sweet potatoes I hear a lot about, and Veronica has mentioned that to me a lot. But the other thing too is kale. What is it that's so great about kale? I have
It
to tell you, I'm a health enthusiast, and I've always taken care of my body, which to me is my temple. But I'm not fond of kale. So tell me a little bit about kale.
well, and I'll privately share a good way for you to eat
Good.
kale. If you don't enjoy eating kale, it involves massaging the kale, but that's an offline
Say,
conversation.
say that again. It involved what? It involves
You actually massage the kale so that
oh,
it starts to break down a little bit, so that it's not quite so like rough and chewy. It's
got it.
just so full of vitamins and minerals and pretty much everything your body needs.
Okay.
There's different varying degrees of nutrients in vegetables and how much the body absorbs from them in whether they're cooked or uncooked. And like tomatoes are very, very healthy, but it's much more healthier to cook them. So there's a whole like yin and yang when it comes to food. But kale is definitely, if kale versus, iceberg lettuce is like basically like, um, drinking water or, drinking like a superfood smoothie,
You know,
if that
I heard
makes
you say
sense.
something there, and I want to piggyback on that because I've not heard that before. It's better to cook your tomatoes as opposed to eat them raw.
Every food is different in
Yes.
terms of how you get the nutrients from it, and how much your body can absorb. It's funny, I heard a lecture from IIN that I always thought spinach was like, a really, really good thing to eat and really, your body absorbed all the nutrients
Yes.
from it. But then I
Hmm.
heard that actually broccoli has much higher nutrient level and your body absorbs much more of the nutrients. So
I
that's a
heard that.
whole nother science of food that, is really complicated. I always say shop the rainbow. Fill your plate with, all the colors of the rainbow and not Fruit Loops, like vegetables. and and you should have yourself covered.
Samantha, I love that. But you know why? Because here's what we know. You know, I know, and the audience and the people who are now and replay will know. You really have to do your own research. You have to do your own testing. You have to do your own exploring and find out what suits you. Because one day coffee is not good for you at all. The next day, one cup of coffee is okay. The next day, you can have two cups. The next thing, you can eggs, dairy, everything. You, as an individual, because you're so unique and you're so special, you, me, everyone, explore what works for you. And if you have IBS, you need someone like you to help you to find out all the things that are good for you. Tell us a little bit. The time flies here and it goes very, very quickly. This event that you have coming up on March the 31st, which is a Wednesday, give us the time. I'm running your life. Bestlifebysamantha.com across here so they can take a snapshot. It'll be put up as well on the link that we're going to use. But give us some more information. Get us excited about this event because all of us need to be there. I'm going to make it my best shot to be there, but I can't promise because I never promise and not deliver. So tell us a little bit more about this event and what you're anticipating, what you want to share, and what you want to give to those who come to spend time and space with you.
Sure. So it's a live Q&A
Yes.
happening on next Wednesday, March 31st at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Mhm.
And like I said, it's called Ditch Digestive Distress to Live Your Best Life. And
Yes.
we're going to kind of dive into, what your doctors aren't saying and answer some questions. I'm going to give away some recipes. It's going to be a really great time. Tom is an excellent interviewer. We have a great rapport. So it's going to be a party. We're not going to do a lot of like yucky potty talk. It's just going to kind of be a fun conversation.
Oh, throw a little potty talk in there. That never hurt anybody.
Well, I'll
But
spell it.
you're going to give away some recipes. And
I
how are
am.
you? Is that going to be contingent upon question and answers or somebody taking a poll? How are you going to
Nope.
decide who you're going to give it to?
I'm going to
Have
give
you
away my
decided
best.
that yet?
No, I'm giving away my best stuff for free. I'm going to drop the links in the chat and people can just go and grab them. My free digestive assessment to see if digestive disorders are an issue for you. My free recipes. There'll also be a link to schedule a free 30-minute breakthrough session with me. So all those links will be happening right there.
Let me say this to you, Samantha, because what you just said and how you just ended is the best way to do it. So many people who start working online, myself included initially, no more. You want to hold on to what you think is initially your priority and your knowing, but give it away, because most people will come to you eventually anyway because they need more. It's not enough because it's not their gift, really. It's from you. So give it all away and do that. Now, the time flies here and it's over. Can you believe it? So,
Oh my
what
goodness.
pearls, what words of wisdom, what jewels, gems, what do you want to leave us with so that we can make sure we get more knowledgeable about IBS, and also we get more into chronic digestive disorders so that we all become more in the sharing of information that benefits others? Any pearls of wisdom that you want to leave us with? The floor is yours.
Yeah, I want to tell anyone that is suffering with any sort of chronic digestive disorders, you don't have to feel this way. I originally started, oh, I feel like 75% better. And then I'm like, let me push it a little more. Maybe I want to feel 85% better. Then I wanted to feel 95% better. And now I just have absolutely no tolerance for any sort of pain or discomfort. And I'm able to just nip it in the bud like that because I know I don't have to feel that way. And you don't either.
Oh, I don't think you could have ended better, because that's true. You don't have to feel that way. And that goes into so many different areas. Thank you, Samantha. I really appreciate what you share with us. I see that you're very passionate about what you're going to do and the people you want to serve, because you've gone through this yourself and you know how painful and irritable it can be. So, that said, I'm going to ask you to say so long, sit in the green room, and I'll be with you in just a second. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. A pleasure. My intention always is to bring you men and women who will share with you anything that they have gathered that has benefited them, that they know will serve you if that might be your concern, your issue, your journey that you're on. So, that said, make the connection. Get the information that scrolls across the screen. Get the name, get the email, get the website, get the phone number. Touch base, because if not now, at some point in time, you never ever know. And this world that we live in, which was at one point somewhat small, it's global now. People are all over the world. This broadcast ultimately, not right away, there is a lag time. It will go across the board through many, many households. So if you're one of them, remember to take the name, the email, and the phone number, and to touch base. And so I bid you good night and thanks for being here. It's always a pleasure when you're here, and I so enjoy your company. Remember to stay safe, be well, and wear the mask. And I look forward to seeing you next week, Tuesday and Wednesday at 7 p.m. Until then, you be well and take care. All the best. So long for now. Cheers.